Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about one of the big myths that's out there. And this is a video that I do make every now and then, but I literally had a subscriber ask me, "Hey Jason, I'm 17, I'm afraid of squatting or deadlifting because I heard they will stunt my growth." Okay. I'm going to get into kind of explaining the origins of this myth, but I want to state up front, this is a myth that is largely spread by teenagers because I'm going to be honest, most teenagers are lazy. There are exceptions. I know exceptions. But as a general rule, most teenagers don't have motivation in general. And if they can find any excuse to be lazy, they will find one. Squatting and deadlifting are hard. Therefore, if they can come up with an excuse not to do it, they won't do it. Okay, but I want a lot of teens to think about a couple of things right up front. If you're 17 years old, how much taller do you honestly think you're going to get, first of all? Yes, you will probably get taller. No, it will not be 5 inches. Okay, probably not going to happen. You'll probably gain another inch or two. Now, are there exceptions to that rule? Yes, there are statistical outliers. The odds that you're that exception is probably not there. Okay, in other words, if you're 5'7" right now at 17 years old, you're not going to be 6'2". Okay? Unless you have some sort of very rare hormonal defect that causes it. It's just not going to happen, and that's not even 1 in a million. So, where else does this come from? Well, it comes from a couple of things. Number one, concern is slipping of epheseal plates. Okay, but you're 16, 17 years old, something in that range, right? Your epheseal plates are not really a concern. And we're talking about slipping epheseal plates, which doesn't usually happen with good form. And it's just as likely to happen from running and jumping hard. If you want to think about jarring the epheseal plates in the legs or arms, that's more likely to cause it than controlled compressive stress. Because if you're squatting and deadlifting with decent form, it's controlled. Right? You're not jumping in the air and bouncing off the ground with 500 pounds on your back. But even then, an epheseal plate slip, being very, very rare, would really only make one leg shorter than the other. If you still stood up tall, you would still have the same height, even if that happened if you slipped one when you were 9 years old weightlifting. But if you're a teenager, this epheseal plate is a non-concern. We could argue that in a controlled environment done carefully, it's not even a concern for an 8-year-old. But it's zero concern for you as a teen. And I would say that if you were concerned about slipping epheseal plates, you should not ever jump. Right? You shouldn't jump or sprint or tumble or fall across the ground. Like, you need to probably just avoid sports in general if that was your big concern. You need to avoid doing anything athletic because that's what could cause it just as easily. And again, it's not that common. And again, your epheseal plates are largely sealed by the time you're 16 or 17 years old. So where else do we see this? Well, I'm going to say we don't see it because of deadlifting, because hopefully no person in their right mind in 2020 thinks that deadlifts are correlated with a person being short. Okay? What just happened? The mountain, Hafthor Bjornsson, who is 6'8", I'm going to say by most standards 6'8" is considered to be tall. Pretty sure in every culture and country in the world that is above average height, 6'8". Just did over an 1,100 pound deadlift. Okay? Deadlifts are not associated with being short. Usually the biggest deadlifts in the world are from taller guys. Your longer arms help a lot. Squats are often associated with stature. Okay? Most of your best squatters are below average height. So people see a lot of the best squatters in the world and they make maybe the association, aha, all that squatting has made him short. No, that's correlation, not causation. What do we mean? That's literally like looking at basketball players and saying, well, playing basketball will make you tall. So if you looked at the height you see in different sports, so in powerlifting particularly, the best squatters, with the exception of the really heavyweight classes, okay, we're going to come over to the point, other than the heavyweight classes, super heavyweights, the best squatters tend to be short. Why? Because they're competing against guys in another weight class. What? They're competing against guys in another weight class. Shorter guys at the same body weight tend to squat more weight. In other words, if we take 5 lifters and they all have similar good quality training, similar body fat, you take them all the way from 5'5" ranging up to 6 foot, and they all do some powerlifting. The shortest one is probably going to have the best squat if they all weigh, let's say, 180 pounds. Exactly 180. And the tallest one is probably going to have the worst squat at that body weight. Why? They have to move the weight a shorter distance. They've got bigger leverage disadvantages due to legs because most of your height comes from leg length. That's the biggest component. Not saying other structures don't matter. Leg length affects height the most in men, right? Torso to a lesser degree than legs. So the tallest guy is going to tend to have the longest legs, longest femurs. Not always, but more often than not. Okay, he's got a leverage disadvantage, and he has to move the weight a further distance. And his skeleton weighs more, so he has less muscle on his frame, and he definitely probably has less muscle per cross-sectional area of leg length, especially, again, thigh, right? Therefore, he's going to squat less weight at the same body weight. So the best squatters in a weight class tend to be slightly shorter. So people will look at that and say, aha, so the squats must be making them short. It's like, no, because they have short legs, they're better at squatting. Correlation doesn't equal causation. That is literally as silly as saying, well, basketball players, really good basketball players are usually, not always, but most of the time, right? They're usually pretty tall. Therefore, playing basketball must stretch you out. There must be something about basketball. You're getting stretched by all the jumping and hanging and jumping up and hanging off the hoop and stuff. Must be stretching them out and making them 7 inches taller. That's the same type of logic. Like, no, tall people have an advantage in basketball. Right? They usually have a structural advantage. Not saying a short guy can't be successful at basketball. There are definitely some out there who've done very well. But why do they get highlighted? Because they're rare. Because being tall is usually an advantage, unless you just have amazing skills. Well, it's the same thing with the squat. The shorter guy just has an advantage pound for pound. If you're in a weight class, it's going to dominate. So what's the reality? Squatting and deadlifting is not only not going to reduce your height or stunt your growth. Let's step back and think of what it is associated with. All right, people who are squatting and deadlifting usually eat more. Do you know that eating more will increase your height? You want to talk about an activity that will potentially reduce your height potential? Try starving yourself. Right? As a teenager, go on a cut and work on getting really deep abs. Get really shredded. That might cost you a ½ inch of your height. Malnutrition. All right, people who lift weights usually eat more food. They probably get more magnesium and calcium in their diet because they're eating more. They're eating more to get bigger and stronger from training. All right, that's going to give you an advantage in height. More food. Nutrition is actually the biggest non-genetic factor, by the way, in height. Eat more, you're probably going to get taller. Number 2, weight training improves bone density and bone mineralization. What do you think determines your height? Your skeleton. The amount of bone minerals that you have through your body is going to affect height. So if you're doing something that is going to train your body, put adaptive stress on your bones, and make your body start mobilizing more minerals to them, is that going to help or hurt your height potential? Well, if it does anything, it's going to help your height potential. Because you're increasing your bone mass. Okay, you're increasing your bone mass. Bones are what determine how tall you are, your skeletal structure. Am I saying that you're going to guarantee to be taller from squatting and deadlifting? No. But hypothetically, if we were going to push it in one direction versus the other, which is it more likely to do from an adaptation perspective to your skeleton? Well, we know it makes your skeleton denser. We know it makes your body partition more nutrients to your skeleton. If anything, that's going to give you a healthier bone structure. You're more likely to reach your height potential that way. You're more likely, not saying you're going to, you're just improving your odds. So the truth is, it's quite the opposite of the myth. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.